The wind howled low and mean through the broken sycamores, dragging icy fingers across the high ridge where the wagon tracks ended. The year was 1865, and the frontier was a land of both opportunity and death. Tonight, death had come dressed in white, riding the breath of a blizzard, and it was hungry. Mara stood beside the rust-bitten buckboard, holding her son against her chest like a lifeline. The boy, Eli, whimpered soft in his sleep, a feverish heat leaking through the threadbare quilt wrapped around him. He'd been burning up since the morning, and the coughing fits came so hard now they left blood on the cloth. She pressed his lips. "You got what's yours," said a voice behind her. Cold, male, and so sure of itself, it didn't bother pretending kindness anymore. She turned. Her brother-in-law, Wayne, stood near the team, reins in hand, eyes shadowed by the brim of his slouch hat. His wife, Lydia, was beside him, her expression drawn tight beneath her fur-lined bonnet. Neither would meet Mara's eyes. "You said we'd go to Fort Stockton together," Mara said, forcing steel in her voice though her legs wobbled. "That was the agreement." Wayne snorted. "We said we'd take you as far as we could manage. And this," he gestured to the dying scrubland, the empty wilderness behind them, "is as far as we go. Can't afford a waste feed on dead weight." She stared at him. "We're family." Lydia corrected, voice brittle as the ice beginning to form on the wheel spokes. "Your place died with William. Ain't right or fair, but it's truth. William would never. He's gone." Wayne snapped, stepping up onto the driver's bench. "And we don't aim to join him. Not on account of you and that sickly boy. Ain't our responsibility." They drove off without another word. Mara watched the wagon until it disappeared behind a swell of snow-touched pines, the sound of hooves fading like a heartbeat dying out. The wind picked up again, sweeping her skirt tight against her legs. She crouched down, pulled Eli closer, and wrapped the quilt tighter around them both. Her teeth chattered, but she didn't cry. Tears were for when there was something left to lose. The day passed in creeping silence. A gray sky pressed down on the world, and with each gust of wind came fresh snow. Mara found a shallow indentation beneath a cluster of cedar trees and dragged what little she had, one canteen, a tin cup, a roll of biscuits, and a flint spark kit, into the shelter of the branches. She piled pine needles over the earth, laid Eli down, and pressed herself around him. His small body trembled against hers. "Hush now," she whispered, though he wasn't speaking. "Mom is here. Mom'll take care of it." She struck the flint over a bundle of dried needles, coaxing a reluctant spark to life. The flame flared, then settled, casting a meager glow. She heated a rock in the fire, then tucked it beneath the blanket beside Eli. It wasn't enough. The coal bled through everything. Night came sudden and brutal. "Would I be safe?" He didn't answer, just looked at Eli, then back at her. That night, she lay awake watching the fire. Snow drifted down outside the shelter, hissing as it touched the coals. Eli slept beside her, peaceful now. She thought about the road ahead, about the in-laws who might be waiting in town, about what would happen if they found out she was alive, if they wanted Eli for the land his father left behind. She turned her head and looked at Tokum, sleeping near the fire with one hand on his bow. There was safety here, for now, and maybe more than that, though she dared not name it. Morning came with the caw of crows. Tokum stirred first, then woke her with a gentle word. "We go," he said. "Too long in one place." "Not good." Mara nodded. She gathered their few things, wrapped Eli in the fur cloak Tokum had given him, and stepped out into the snow. The world waited. They would head south. For now, the trail would be dangerous, the road uncertain. But Mara had made her choice, and somewhere deep inside her, for the first time in weeks, she felt a flicker of something new. Hope. The sun hung low and red behind the canyon rim, bleeding light through the folds of rock and casting long shadows across the snow-patched valley. Tokum moved like a ghost ahead of them, steps silent, bow slung across his back, eyes ever searching the land. Behind him came Mara, her skirts muddied from the thaw, her boots blistered, and her arms aching from carrying Eli half the way. The boy was heavier than he looked, still weak but stronger by the day. His cough had lessened, but Mara didn't trust it yet. Not out here. They'd been traveling south for 4 days, skirting known trails, moving through thick brush and dry riverbeds, stopping only to rest beneath bluffs or in the shelter of tree clusters. It was wild country, untamed and stretching, with the kind of silence that made a person feel watched, even when alone. On the 5th day, Tokum paused atop a ridge, scanning the horizon with a practiced squint. "What is it?" Mara asked, adjusting Eli on her hip. He pointed. "Smoke. Not ours." Mara's stomach tightened. "How far?" "Half-day's walk. Maybe more. Could be settlers. Could be soldiers. Or Comancheros," she whispered. He nodded once. "Maybe." They moved more cautiously after that, Tokum circling wide, checking for tracks every few minutes. Mara's nerves frayed with every step. She hadn't known how quiet the wilderness could be until she'd spent this long in it, how every twig snap or wind whistle sounded like a rifle cocking. That night, they camped in a narrow ravine flanked by frost-glazed cottonwoods. Tokum brought down a quail with one shot and dressed it quickly. He roasted the bird on a spit of green wood while Mara sat with Eli, rocking him gently, trying to ignore the cold sinking into her bones. "You think it's safe?" "Where we're going?" she asked, her voice low. Tokum didn't answer right away. He stared into the fire, then said, "Nothing is safe, but it is a way. For my in-laws." She tried to laugh, but it came out bitter. "They think I'm dead. Maybe they'd rather it stay that way." Tokum looked at her. "You think they follow? If they find out Eli's alive?" "Yes. He's got land rights now. My husband's share. Wayne and Lydia, they never wanted to split it. They'd see Eli as a burden if he's sick, but if he lives..." She shook her head. "They'd take him." She rose, heart in her throat. But it wasn't Tokum. Wayne stepped into view, rifle in hand, eyes gleaming with the satisfaction of a hunter who's cornered his prey. Well, he drawled. "Didn't think we'd find you so easy." Lydia was behind him, her mouth pinched tight, eyes hard. Mara stepped in front of Eli, arms wide. "You stay away from my son." "That boy's not yours anymore," Lydia said. "Law says he's William's heir, and William was Wayne's kin. So we're talking him." "You'll have to shoot me," Mara hissed. Wayne raised his rifle. He didn't get the chance to fire. A blur of motion came from the shadows. Tokum, silent and swift, a tomahawk in hand. He struck Wayne's arm, the rifle clattering to the ground. Lydia screamed. Wayne staggered back, clutching his bleeding wrist. "Run!" Tokum barked. Mara didn't hesitate. She grabbed Eli and fled down the riverbed, stumbling over roots and stones, Tokum following close behind. Gunfire cracked behind them. A bullet kicked up dust near her heel. They ran until breath tore in her lungs, until the sound of pursuit faded, until they collapsed in the shelter of a rockfall, heaving and trembling. Tokum checked Eli, then Mara. "You're not hit." She shook her head. "You? No. Just close. They'll keep coming." "No," he said, voice steady. "I left a trail they can't follow. I led them into bad ground. Sharp rock. Snakes. They'll turn back." Mara sat down hard, Eli curled against her chest. "Why?" she asked. Tokum looked at her, his face unreadable. "Because I chose you," he said. "Not just for kindness, not for debt, but because I see strength in you." In him. Her voice broke. "I don't know where we go from here. You come with me. To my people. They will know you are under my protection. And maybe in time more than that." Mara stared into the dark horizon, the first stars blinking to life. She didn't know what waited for them beyond the plains, only that the road behind them was closed and the path ahead was unknown. But Tokum was beside her, and Eli was alive. And for now, that was enough. She took Tokum's hand in hers, and together, they rose and walked into the deepening night. The sun beat down upon the canyon floor like a forge fire, baking the earth into cracked clay and making the air shimmer above the rocks. Mara wiped sweat from her brow as she trudged forward, Eli's small hand gripped tightly in hers. They had been walking since dawn, the boy's steps slow but steady, his spirit seemingly lifted by the sheer vastness around him. Behind them, Tokum walked in silence, eyes scanning the horizon, bow slung over his shoulder, tomahawk hanging from his belt. Days had passed since the confrontation with Wayne and Lydia. True to Tokum's word, the in-laws had not returned. Whether it was the wound Tokum gave Wayne or the treacherous land he led them into, Mara didn't know. But she no longer looked back as much. She had begun to believe they were truly free. That belief was tested when they reached the edge of Tokum's homeland. They crested a ridge and looked down upon a wide basin cut with dry arroyos and scattered with low brush. In the distance, smoke curled from a cluster of lodges. The Comanche village lay nestled in a fold of land, protected by hills and watchful eyes. It was not large, but it pulsed with life. Children chasing each other between shelters. Women. Silence. Then the old woman leaned forward. Would you become one of us? Not just live among, but with. Would you take our customs? Raise your boy in our ways. Mara looked at Eli, who stood beside Tokum, watching the firelight dance across the elders' faces. Yes, she said, I would. The old woman smiled faintly. Then you'll be tested. Not in words. In time. But for now, you may stay. Tokum placed a hand lightly on Mara's shoulder. You are not alone anymore. That night, for the first time since the storm that took William, Mara slept without fear. The days that followed were slow, filled with learning. Mara was taught how to prepare food the Comanche way, how to stretch hides, grind corn, weave fiber. She helped care for the children, joined the women in their work, and listened more than she spoke. Tokum guided her gently, never correcting with harshness, always with quiet patience. Eli flourished. His cough faded entirely. He ran with the other boys, learning to ride a pony, to fish with a spear, to track small animals through the brush. Laughter returned to his voice, and with it, Mara's heart began to mend. Still, not all welcomed them. Some whispered behind their backs. A few avoided her. Once, a young warrior spat near her feet, muttering something she didn't understand. Tokum heard about it, but said nothing. Instead, one morning, he brought her to the river. There, he handed her a necklace of carved bone and beads. This was my sister's, he said. She wore it when she was taken in by the white man who helped her. I give it to you now, not as gift, as bond. Mara's throat tightened. Tokum, what are you saying? That you are not just under my protection. You are part of me now, if you will be. She looked at the necklace, then at him. Sunlight caught in his dark eyes, steady and unflinching. Yes, she said, I will. They stood by the riverbank, the wind tugging at their hair, the past behind them, and something new beginning. But the peace did not last. 3 weeks after their arrival, a scout returned to the village with news. Riders were seen, settlers, armed, moving near the basin edge. Tokum's face darkened. They search again, he said. They're not done. Mara's heart sank. Wayne, maybe, or others. But they come close. The elders convened. It was decided that if the riders entered sacred ground, they would be warned once. After that, no mercy. Tokum prepared to ride out and intercept them. Mara caught his arm. Take me. No, it's too dangerous. If it's Wayne, if they see me, maybe it ends without blood. Please. He hesitated, then nodded. They rode out at dawn. From the ridge, they spotted the men, 4 of them, rifles on their saddles, moving cautiously. At the lead rode Wayne. He hadn't healed fully. His arm was bound, stiff, but the look in his eyes was the same, greedy, hard, merciless. Tokum and Mara rode out to meet them, stopping 20 paces away. Wayne's eyes went wide when he saw her. You're alive. I'm more than that, she said. I'm free, and Eli is safe. You're not getting him. You don't decide that. I do now. And if you step 1 foot closer, these people will defend what's theirs. Wayne sneered. They took you in? After all they said about us? You'd rather be one of them? Yes, she said clearly. I would. Wayne started to reach for his rifle. A sharp whistle split the air. From every rise, warriors appeared, bows drawn, rifles aimed, silent as shadows. Silas muttered something. Wayne snapped back. Don't matter how many of them there are. They bleed like anyone else. Tokum moved like smoke. 1 second crouched beside Mara. The next, he'd loosed an arrow into the fire, splitting the silence with a sharp thwop. Panic erupted. Men jumped, scrambled for weapons. Another arrow struck a saddlebag, spilling powder and dried meat into the dust. Tokum rose from cover, bow drawn. "Enough," he said. Wayne turned, eyes wild, rifle swinging toward the sound. Mara stepped into the firelight. "No more running, Wayne." His face twisted, half in rage, half in disbelief. "You got no right to speak to me like that." "I have every right. I was your brother's wife, and you left us to die." Wayne's gun shifted, barrel rising. Before he could pull the trigger, an arrow slammed into the dirt beside his boot. Tokum appeared from the shadows, tomahawk gleaming. Wayne froze. "You ain't got the numbers for this," he said. "We don't need numbers," Tokum replied. "We only need justice." A beat passed. Then Silas raised his rifle. A shout rang out from the brush. Another warrior. A flash of movement. And chaos broke. Gunshots cracked like thunder. Smoke curled up into the starlit sky. Men shouted. Horses screamed. Hooves thudded across dry ground. Mara ducked low, heart pounding. She drew the bow, aimed clumsily at one of the hired guns, and loosed. The arrow flew wild but startled him enough to miss his shot. A second warrior tackled him from behind, and they rolled into the dust. Wayne ran. He bolted for the horses, feet pounding, eyes wild with fear. Mara gave chase. She didn't think, just followed, boots slipping on gravel, breath sharp in her throat. Wayne reached a mount, struggling to cut the tether. "Don't!" she shouted. He turned, pistol in hand. The hammer rose. Mara froze. But then, asterisk thud, asterisk, Tokum's tomahawk struck home, slamming into Wayne's shoulder and spinning him to the ground. Wayne howled in pain, writhing, cursing. Mara approached slowly. Tokum followed, retrieving his weapon, silent as ever. Wayne looked up at her, bloodied, teeth clenched. "You think this ends anything?" he hissed. "There'll be more. There'll always be more." Mara knelt beside him, meeting his glare with something colder than rage. "No, there won't," she said, "because the next time they come, they'll find a people who don't run, and a woman who doesn't hide." Wayne spat blood and passed out. The rest surrendered. By dawn it was over. They took the prisoners back to the edge of the valley. Bound, disarmed, and under guard, the surviving intruders were left with a warning and a broken rifle barrel at their feet. "You come back," the elder woman said, "and you'll not walk away next time." Wayne was left behind in a shallow pit, his wound bound, but without weapon or horse. Tokum said nothing on the ride back. Neither did Mara. Words had already been spent. What remained was silent understanding, the kind that didn't need speech. That night, a fire was lit in the center of the village. Not for battle, but for peace. Women brought food. Children laughed. Drums beat like heartbeats into the dark. Mara sat beside Tokum, Eli curled between them. The boy leaned into her side, sleepy but content, the firelight dancing on his cheek. "Tokum," she said quietly, "I thought I came here to survive. I didn't know I'd find something more." He looked at her, eyes reflecting firelight. "You found truth. That is harder than survival." She nodded, leaning her head against his shoulder. Around them, the village sang, and in the stars above, a new story began to write itself. One not of sorrow, but of strength. Not of what had been taken, but what had been claimed. A woman, a child, a warrior, and a life forged not in fear, but in fire.